General.
Senator Inhofe.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just as an observation of one member here, one of the major improvements that I've seen is and I congratulate the Defense Department and the administration for saying that they'll no longer comment on exact troop numbers and imposing public deadlines. I think that's a major change from the previous administration that I think is very helpful. I think Secretary Mattis, and you in your opening statement, you gave a pretty long answer to the question that we get confronted with quite often. And let me just ask for a short answer. We understand that the problem for a safe haven for terrorists in Afghanistan and all these other things, but can you reiterate for the American people just why they should, in a very brief way, they should care about the future of Afghanistan and why we should continue to expend resources and risk any more American lives? What's the short answer?
Why should we continue, sir, is to make certain that Americans can live safely. And when I advise the President on sending troops in a position where they can die, I have to know in my analysis that this is going to sufficiently contribute to the well-being of the American people to put those troops' lives at risk.
That's a good brief answer. Thank you. On the February 21st, Senator Rounds and 4 other members and I sat down and spent quite a bit of time with President Ghani and General Nicholson, and we made a list of some 8 things that they're looking at for the future. I'd like to just pick out 3 of these and ask you for either one of you for a current status of where we are, because I think you would agree with the 8 points they brought out. The first of the 3 would be the need for more coalition forces to train and assist the Afghan military. The second is the strength and commitment of the Afghan people who want to take their country back, the status of that. And third, shifting the focus to winning versus not losing. Start with the first one, the need for more coalition forces to train and assist the Afghan military. What's the status and the current of that?
Sir, the Afghan forces, special forces, commandos that have our trainers, they have won every time they fought the enemy. Those without have not won. Right now, we're adding more troops for that very purpose. We're bringing in more NATO coalition partners and trying to bring in more of their troops for advise and assist. And we intend to get this down to every corps is going to have a brigade that will have the trainers and the advisors with them. And within that brigade, since when they do offensive ops, there's usually 1 or 2 Kandax battalions, they will also now have trainers. They have not had them in the past several years. That means they were not able to get swift access to NATO air support, fire support.
Yeah, that's very good. Now, the level of commitment of the Afghan people, what's the status of that? How about you, General Dunford?
Senator, thanks. There's a constant polling done in Afghanistan, and the most recent poll came out and said 87% of the Afghan people reject what the Taliban represents, and more than 75% of the people had confidence and trusted Afghan security forces. So I think that is actually moving in the right direction, Senator.
Yeah, because it wasn't that way last February. That's an improvement, an obvious one.
It's a slight improvement from last February, but certainly a significant improvement from 2011, 2012.
That's right. And the third one, the shifting the focus to winning versus not losing.
Senator, that's exactly what the strategy that we've just outlined is designed to do, and certainly from a military perspective, what Secretary Mattis has made very clear that we needed measurable objectives. The objectives, again, to ensure that the Afghan security forces are capable of providing security with a minimal amount of support. That's one element. Making sure that the ISIS and Al-Qaeda in the region are defeated. That's a second element. Keeping other groups from conducting attacks against the United States, our allies, that's a third element, and then reinforcing the efforts for the peace process is a fourth element.
Very good. The chairman in his opening statement talked about the quote, in fact, he quoted, "Conditions on the ground, not arbitrary timetables, will guide our strategy from now on." Is either one of you want to take a stab at further defining conditions?
Senator, first of all, that the population centers and the bulk of the Afghan people are protected from the depredations of the terrorists, and that denies them the very platforms they need if they want to conduct attacks against us, our allies, that sort of thing. Furthermore, we're going to have to see a country that is able to provide government services. There's been pretty much a wholesale swap out of many of the old leaders in various ministries, to include the military leaders today across the board, from the commander of the Army on down. These are post 9/11 proven people. In other words, we're getting people in now who are not colored with some of the old ways of doing business that have bedeviled us for so long. Further, we're going to see, in terms of the Afghan military, we're going to see more effective operations in the field, such as we're seeing right now for the first time in the war, with all the corps on offensive strikes going against Taliban and the other terrorists in the country. This will drive them toward the reconciliation, Afghan-led, Afghan-owned reconciliation that will end this war.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary.